Darn it. Okay, that's better. Hopefully everybody can see all the manga I have behind me and they can think I'm cool. I really need other people to think I'm cool. Anywho, yo, real quick, Asians, what's going on? What's going on with y'all? What's Hey, what's up? I'm Mohawk Johnson from Mo Hates Media, and I don't know what to call this. I don't know if this is going to be a segment. Let's call it a culture conversation for now because it's alliterative and that tends to do well. Anywho, I need to talk to the Asian community because there seems to be a lot of back and forth between you and I, and we have bigger fish to fry than this. Like, way bigger fish to fry. So, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of anti blackness in the Asian community, either accidental or on purpose. And I'm noticing it a lot in my own comment section. Want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, I made a video about Joey, the anime man, where I called him a colonizer. Now, for those of you who don't know, Joey, the anime man, he's hot garbage. I'm not a fan of him. I don't like his work. I don't like anything he has to say. I can't stand him, and I can't stand the Trash Taste podcast. I agree with the title of the podcast. Absolutely correct. Trash Taste. But in calling Joey a colonizer, I got dragged to filth for being racist to Joey, for saying that he's a colonizer because of his cultural background. For those of you who don't know, Joey is half Japanese, 1/3 Hungarian, or 1/4 Hungarian and 1/4 German. That's how that math works. Yeah, 25 is 50 plus the other 50. Yep, that's how that works. Yep, I know percentages. But yeah, Joey is a mixed Asian man, a white and Asian man, a Wasian, if you will, for those of you who engage with that sort of terminology. And I acknowledged that there are a bevy of Asian people and Wasian people specifically who engage in white supremacy. And I think that Joey is one of those people. This came from the conversation about how he reacted to that woman who said that she wanted to see more female protagonists in anime. Mind you, before anybody goes off of me in the comments, in that video, she outright said that there were lots of female protagonists in anime and that she just wanted to see more. The statement that she initially made was, I need more female protagonists in anime. I need more. Got cleared up 12 seconds later in an ultimately 45-second video. So Joey didn't have the patience to listen to a woman talk for less than a minute and then made a really condescending and jerky video. And in my response to his video, I talked about how I'm not surprised that he acted like this towards a woman because I know he acts like this towards other people of color, and he's acted like this towards black people. He's literally a colonizer, and people did not react well. They did not take that well at all. This part of the video is going to be a bit more academic, so I decided to put my glasses on because people tend to take me more seriously when I wear a pair of my glasses. But yeah, I mentioned his history with harmful comments that he's made towards black people and other groups of people. Lots of people in the comments sounded off about how he acts that way and how other people of Asian descent who might be mixed with white people or just fully Asian have their own grappling with white supremacy, and how a lot of colorism happens and how Joey has participated in that. And it even got brought to my attention that at one point during the whole debacle about the Netflix live action Death Note anime, Joey made a flagrantly racist comment, and it's not the first time he's done something like that. I'm going to play that now.
The problem is the fact that this man right here, Keith Stanfield, who has starred in many movies such as Short Term 12 and the Straight Outta Compton movie, is assuming the role of the one and only L. Now again, hear me out until the end, because I am just gonna come out and straight up say why a lot of people are not okay with Mr. Stanfield assuming the role of L. It's because he's black. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please. I'm sorry. Don't. Aki, please. Aki, please. Take it from here, please.
As Joey said, this is the reason why a lot of people are annoyed by this casting choice, but not for the reasons you think. Now, while I am the same person that still believes that live action should really boil down to how an actor actually executes and portrays a certain character, I still believe that somewhat accuracy to the original character still plays a part to the success of a series, especially when it comes to anime turned into live action adaptations, because the character of L is not only unique as a personality, but also aesthetically as well. From the pale skin to the bags under the eyes, it's not just there for decoration. They are brilliant aesthetic traits that show what kind of character L really is. Because just those little aesthetic details help us remember that L is this very introverted and twisted-minded character, but also a genius at the same time. Image-wise, it also supports things like his posture, the way he sits. It all comprises into also that sort of innocent and naive spirit that he has, even though he's a full-grown adult. And I'm just having a very hard time with seeing how they're going to be able to pull off that same image with the actor that they've chosen for L.
I want to point out real quick that neither Joey nor Aki had the same criticisms for any of the casts being portrayed as white people in this Death Note adaptation. They only had heat for the black guy. Only the black guy didn't look right. Only the black guy couldn't portray the character. Only the black guy couldn't aesthetically fit the character. And it was really weird because are you trying to tell me black people can't slouch? Or have bags under there? Do you mean to tell me Lakeith Stanfield can't look disheveled? Like, they just didn't have any of this heat for any of the white cast members. They singled out and went in on the black guy and then made that the core reason that they thought the adaptation was going to fail. So, with my understanding of world history and my understanding of Joey's behavior and my understanding of his cultural background and how he is made up of groups of people who have colonized before and how he literally lives on a place that was a penal colony for the British, that it would be safe to say that he is a colonizer and he's engaging in colonizer behavior, and that the way he treats women online is indicative of a grander thing of him not treating people well, because if you colonize people, you kind of don't value them. And a lot of people went off on me. And I want to expound upon that and have a grander conversation about, you know, my observations of multiple groups of Asian people. And I will be painting with broad strokes, but I want to acknowledge right now, I know that not all Asian people like this. I know there are lots of wonderful Asian people in the world. I'm friends with quite a few of them. I don't want to do the whole I have a black friend thing, but truly, there are lots of varied people with varying ideas of their own identities and other people's identities and how they move through the world. There just also is an anti-blackness and right-wing problem with certain minorities and certain groups of people who immigrate into other places and then assimilate into the grander culture. Here in the United States, a lot of immigrants from other places assimilate into being American by being anti-black and engaging in right-wing politics. And Asian people are not exempt from that conversation. So this conversation is specifically about Asian people, but I know African immigrants do this, Latino immigrants do this behavior, and lots of other groups of people have engaged in this behavior globally and historically. This video is about Asian people, but I don't think Asian people are the only people who do this, and I know not all Asian people do this. You don't have to scream at me in the comments about that. I know different groups of people are different, and that individuals within those groups of people are also different. Me, the black guy, definitely understands how it feels to be judged as a whole because of your race and culture. Understand that I'm not doing that. I'm just making observations based off of a rooted understanding of world history and my current understanding of global politics as a person who used to work in the field of education. Like, I actually do kind of know what I'm talking about in this, and I need you all to calm down. Thank you. So yeah, Joey said the thing, and Joey has said a lot of things, and I said he's a colonizer, and people got mad. But I'd like to unpack that. One, here's a list of places that Japan and Germany have, attempted to colonize, just to point out that literally by definition. And also, again, Australia was a penal colony for the British. Britain invaded Australia and then started sending criminals over there, and none of the Aboriginal people were cool with that. And then a bunch of genocides happened. And Joey's Australian. Like, Joey's from Australia, like born and raised in Australia. I think he currently lives somewhere else with his, I believe now, wife. And yeah, it's kind of okay to acknowledge that people with a history of colonization who live in a colony are colonizing. I thought that would be apparent. I thought that would be evident. I thought that would be an okay thing to acknowledge out loud without having to expound upon it for about 15 minutes because a bunch of people are in the comments mad, but apparently you can't do that. But this also directly connects to a bunch of other things that I have been able to notice here in the US, which again was a former British colony, and the ways in which those things work, which is when a place gets colonized and when white supremacy takes root in a country or on a continent, people move there and they assimilate, which I mentioned earlier. But they assimilate specifically depending on what country colonized them and who was in power. In Australia and here in the United States, it's white people. It's white people from some of the same places that colonized Australia. So I can kind of see that behavior in Joey, and I can recognize it because I grew up with it here at home. It's the same group of people doing the colonization. We speak the same language because of the colonization. I know what happened. I was here when it happened to me. So that just occurs. Lots of people move places and they assimilate, but even other white people had to assimilate because whiteness isn't really about racial identity. It's more so about ideology, right? Whiteness is an ideology. Historically, there are lots of groups of people who are now considered white who were not considered white at the time and are not considered white globally, depending on context. Lots of Jewish people are technically considered white in some spaces, but not in others based solely on context, right? Maybe they're the bottom of the totem pole in whiteness in regards to their relationship to other white people, but when a neighborhood can be gentrified or when a genocide can occur, white global superpowers will support that genocide because they are all aligned in that white supremacy. Not really a far jump. You're white to them, but you're not to us. Right? Pretty simple. And that happened across the board with Greeks, Italians, the Spanish, Irish people, Scottish people, etc., when people came to the United States. Lots of people have a working memory. Lots of people's grandparents have a working, living memory of technically not being considered white. And then a shift happened, right? The Ellis Island Agreement occurred. And you all can look that up and read that for yourselves. But to make a long story short, there was an agreement amongst people that they could just be horrible to black people and eventually they would be considered white, right? We see slave catchers becoming police officers and Irish people who were oppressed by the British at home becoming massive members of that police force so that they could enforce Jim Crow and enforce segregation. We saw that they engaged with violence directly with the British because the British were doing a version of that to them at home. And when many of them moved over here, they got the opportunity to do it to others and they did so. Same with the Spanish, same with Italians. It happened over and over and over again. And after the Civil Rights Movement and after a long period of solidarity between black people, Jewish people, and Asian people, while dealing with the Civil Rights Movement, something changed. People got rights, and when people started getting rights, people began to assimilate into these grander white ideological cultures. People stopped teaching their children their native languages so that they could fit in more with being American. They let go of cultural identities, cultural dances, cultural foods, cultural musics, and they jumped directly into hypercapitalism. And from that bred generations of people who are technically people of color, but who are willing to step on black people in order to move themselves forward. Because when social hierarchies get made, people climb social ladders in order to get to the top of those hierarchies. But the steps on those ladders are often other people. And that's how that violence circulates. That's how it moves. That's how it embeds itself into the identities and ideologies of individuals who are at one point a lower step on that ladder, getting stepped on themselves. I think about the neighborhood in Chicago, the south side of Chicago, Pilsen, a neighborhood that I have lived in before, that was primarily Polish. But a lot of Polish people got the opportunity to be white by simply letting go of being Polish. They stopped teaching languages, they stopped giving their children traditional names, food, music, dance, culture all got given up in order to be American white. And then lots of them started moving to the north side. So by the 60s and 70s, Pilsen had become a predominantly Mexican neighborhood because all of the Polish people who started living in Pilsen and were working in the factories during the industrial period of America's history, they left. And now, 70 to 80 years later, I have Polish people in my comments when I talk about Pilsen being a Mexican neighborhood, screaming that their neighborhood got invaded and taken over by people who simply lived in the houses that they abandoned when they didn't want to be Polish anymore. So people have given up who they are in order to participate in white supremacy. And when people who are already willing to give up their relationship to their culture then date, marry, and have families with white people, those children get raised under a white ideology. And that ideology benefits and rewards racism, xenophobia, misogyny, homophobia, and all these other things. And that's not to say that other cultures are not devoid of these things, because of course not. But white supremacy often goes hand in hand with lateral oppression amongst groups of people. And it stays alive because of those conversations about oppression and those engagements in that oppression. And I think Joey is a product of that. I think that Australian man who lives in a colony, who's from people who colonized, who is mixed with one type of colonizer and a different type of colonizer, says and does racist, misogynistic shit while also saying that One Piece doesn't have politics in it because he's a colonizer who has not had to contextualize his own racial identity in any meaningful way, which is why he can look at an anime with a world government, with slavery, with genocide, with all of the horrible things that have happened in the One Piece because of that world government and go, this has nothing to do with politics, because in his mind, things like that don't occur to people like him. Joey is ideologically white and lots of other people are. I mean, that's why K-pop artists are wearing Confederate flags now. And that needs to be a conversation in and of itself. That's why so many black people are drawn in blackface in anime. Why hip-hop and things invented by black people are considered world and shared culture, even though other groups of people get to name and own their culture, even if other people are allowed to participate. I have never had an issue calling merengue, bachata, samba, and salsa Latin dances, despite the fact that I've learned how to do all of them. But let you say tutting, breaking, popping, animating, let you say any of those things are black dances, and people lose their fucking minds. And it is because I live in a world where people like me are not allowed to own things because people like me don't matter unless we're the subject of some sort of ridicule and conversation. And that ridicule and that conversation, being the subject of but not a participant in, is why so many people feel comfortable engaging in the behavior that they engage in. So, Joey and lots of other Asian people are proponents of that. I think about that man Chow, who gunned down that young black boy for stealing water bottles that he didn't have while pointing a weapon at him that he had dropped yards before he was shot in the back several times, meaning he was trying to escape and not actually pointing the weapon at anybody because he had already been disarmed by dropping his weapon. And I look at how the jury found him completely innocent of shooting again an at the time unarmed black boy in the back 4 times over water bottles that he didn't have because he had already been searched in the store after being accused of stealing. And I think about how everybody walked away going, this isn't a race issue. The kid was stealing and had a weapon, just for us to find out that the kid didn't steal anything and was currently disarmed because he dropped his weapon running away, several hundred feet before he was even shot. And when I see moments like that, I see white supremacy. I see white supremacy in people who were victims yesterday and now participants today, and who could be victims tomorrow. Because let's be frank, without black Americans, a lot of people in the United States, a lot of minorities especially, wouldn't have rights. Our civil rights movement laid the groundwork for lots of other people to have what they have now. Lots of immigrants' rights are built upon the bedrock of us ending Jim Crow against black people. And a lot of people have forgotten that and have decided to engage in violence against black people. And I think I'm getting flustered. I believe that ideologies like that permeate global conversations, and global conversations specifically about identity. And I think lots of groups of people can do a version of that to other groups of people in their own home context. I think colorism is a big part of that. I think skin lightening cream is a big part of that. And I think Joey's behavior is a big part of that. I think Joey's on camera anti blackness, his on camera colorism, his general disdain for women because it almost seems like he barely sees their people, are big parts of that. I think Joey being a man, Joey being a mixed man, and Joey being a mixed man who was raised white helps contextualize all of this behavior that we see out of him and lots of other people. So yeah, I called Joey the anime man a colonizer because he behaves like one. And there is a grand historical context that allows me to be able to make that observation. Now, lots of people are going to go into the comments and go, well, I can make an observation about black people. Look at the amount of crime you have. And yeah, you could technically do that. I just wouldn't call that an observation. Do you know the difference between crime rate, arrest rate, and exoneration rate? Did you know that black people and white people in the United States have nearly identical crime rates, differing by about 2%? Did you know that even though black people have the highest arrest rate in the country, we also have one of the highest exoneration rates because the police departments in our cities have historically had issues with telling black people apart? Meaning if somebody in my neighborhood does a crime, 11 people who look like me will get arrested because the police can't tell any of us apart, and then a bunch of us are going to get released. But because we were all arrested and because that crime was reported, that crime goes into the crime rate, those arrests go into the arrest rate, and then the exoneration rate happens because we either get released or we get charged and then convicted just for DNA and video evidence to prove later that we didn't actually do anything. Because DNA evidence becoming popular led to a bunch of black people getting released in the United States of America from prison because we didn't do it. And there was goo somewhere that proved that we didn't do it because it wasn't our goo. Goo could be a stand-in for any bodily fluid because lots of crimes happen and lots of things have been blamed on black people. So when you live in a world where black people can be blamed for things at random, murdered for those things, just for us to all find out decades later that they didn't do it, having a conversation about whether or not black people are inherently criminal based on observation feels a little bit off, given that you didn't back that observation up with any data, anything quantifiable. You can Google every single thing I said, and I can Google what you said, and one of us will be right, and it won't be you. You can do that in the comments. Or you can calm down and maybe have 3 thoughts in a row. And if those thoughts engage your direct bias, consider why. That's all I'm asking. I'm asking that people operate with a modicum of consideration when having conversations like this. Ultimately, it is what it is. I called Joey a colonizer because Joey is a colonizer who acts like a colonizer. And when I look at global history as contextualized as a member of the Western world who was colonized by the same people who colonized Joey's homeland, or who at least worked in tandem with colonizing other places in Joey's homeland, I am able to make direct parallels because a lot of the same things happened because some of the same people were involved. Joey is a colonizer because he colonizes. End of story. That's it. That's all. That doesn't mean all Asians are colonizers, and that doesn't mean all groups of people are colonizers or that anybody in a group is automatically a colonizer. But I think Joey's particular behavior is colonizer and racist white man coded. And I think that's okay to say out loud. But let me know what you think. Most of you are probably going to be wrong, and that's fine. I need you to comment so that I get the engagement. Even though I don't get ad revenue for any of these videos, I don't get ad revenue for anything I make. So if you like what I do, please consider supporting me on Patreon. I would appreciate it very much. I would be immensely thankful for your support. I hope you all have a good day, and I hope we think and read a little bit more. I have 70 open Google tabs. Let me know in the comments how many open Google tabs you have right now. Talk to you later. Bye. I'm so serious. The app doesn't pay me for anything I do, no matter how many millions of views I get. The app just doesn't pay me. It hurts. It hurts that I work so hard and do so well and I don't get paid for anything. Please get on Patreon. Okay, bye. That was a grenade. Threw a grenade. I don't know how to end videos. I gotta learn how to end videos.